Oh, hey, this is John Chen with Geoteaming, and here joining me is Randon. Randon, what are you doing here?
Hey, what's up, John?
Well, good to see you. We're here in the ID, the International District, here in Seattle, and I got a chance to do a little work with Randon. And so, Randon, tell me a little bit about, of course, what you do for your day job, and then tell me a little bit about what you do for ACLF.
Well, first of all, John, thank you for helping out with ACLF with geoteaming since 2009. And you've been doing geoteaming. I came, I did CLP back in 2011, so I just want to say thanks for all of the support you've provided us. But
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
my name is Randon Aya, and I currently work at ICHS. I'm the behavioral health manager, and in my other life, I'm also the board chair for ACLF, which is Asian Pacific Islander Community Leadership Foundation.
Cool. And then the other, the acronym soup here, of course, and the ID. Well, let's finish all the acronyms. IHCS, right? What is that an acronym?
International Community Health Services.
ICHS. ICHS. I got to get them right. Even myself, look at them. So excellent. So again, you're the board chair this year
For ACLF.
for ACLF, and why don't you talk a little bit about what is ACLF? You've been involved with this organization. It's great as a full circle, not only as a student, I guess, or an attendee, but now on this board side. Can you talk a little bit about what ACLF is?
So I guess I can talk about my own experience. Back in 2011, I did the Community Leaders Program. And I guess for context, I didn't really know much about the ID Chinatown, the CID neighborhood. And since I knew nothing about this neighborhood, I also came to ACLF with no community. And I did the program back in 2011. I made these friends that are still friends with me now. And the thing about community is when you have community, it's like having family. And the one thing that I can tell you every single year since I've been a part of this foundation is family. Community equals family. And whenever I've sat in some interviews for some students who want to be part of the CLP, it is all about I don't really have a community. Consistently, over and over and over again, every year, there's at least 80% of the participants who really don't feel like they have a community.
Well, and it's a really interesting fact because, again, your organization too focuses a lot on social justice or other types of work that's trying to change the world. And even though there are a lot of people doing this kind of work, sometimes, and obviously quite often, people feel like they're alone in doing this work, and that because other people are doing, the regular life things, right?
There's a lot of heavy lifting in helping and being part of the community. And when you're part of the community, you feel responsible for the community. And that's a lot of heavy lifting. And you need to find people who want to lift that heavy load with you. And this is one of those avenues where, talk about full circles here. Back in 2011, I knew nothing about this neighborhood. And then here we are, 2017. I'm actually working in this neighborhood to help the community. And it's just, I feel so, I'm just filled with a lot of gratitude. I mean, it's like, what else can I say? I mean, I can never say that I love my job because I get to provide and give services and help be the voice of the community. And that's just, I'm just blessed.
Yeah, and I saw an example of that. I mean, you really, not only do you get the opportunity, but you want to help this community, and then the community shows up because the meeting place that we selected already 2, 3, 4 people that walk in through there, know you by name, right, and greeted you. And not only that, the place that you met. That we met, right, has significant because you met other people that are really important to now your community, sometimes for the first time in that location.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, part of the ACLF experience is mentorship, and you can be you can be an active mentor for the program, or you can naturally just take a phone call or an email that someone wants to connect you with someone, and someone believes that they can, well, if you meet this person, there would be some sort of overlap or some sort of thing that you would be able to help them with. I mean, mentorship is really weird because no one ever thinks that they are a mentor. And when you ask someone to be a mentor, they're like, I don't want to be a mentor. Because that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure to be a mentor. But if someone asks you, like, hey, I want you to meet so-and-so, and then we go to Eastern, and then suddenly I'm talking to someone, and then we find that, oh, we both have the same interests, and I talk about ACLF, I talk about leadership, and then lo and behold, that person applies for the program.
Wow. See, I've been in sales now. This is my 20th year in my company. And of course, as an engineer, learning how to do sales is really difficult. But I really have turned my style in the last couple of years where I just call it the hangout factor. Like, all I really want to do is hang out with somebody, and you knew good things will happen. And so I look for that, not trying to sell them anything, but let's just spend an hour together and either really connecting, talking about whatever we want to talk about, and just let the rest of the world emerge, as opposed to in my earlier days, right? I was always trying to get something going on, and I just found it to be so much more effective. Is that what you see?
And it's less pressure, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you feel like, oh, I have to be a mentor. I have to do something to have an impact on this other person, when all you really need to do is just share a part of who you are. And whether or not it fits or it doesn't fit, it's just being community.
Yeah. And then again, everyone feels better about it. All right. Well, while we have the opportunity, it's like, how do you describe ACLF? Because it is a very unique program. All right. And I would love to see, like, from the outside, even either some of its logistics, or how do you kind of describe the ACLF experience to somebody who doesn't know what it is?
Well, it's a leadership program. And through this whole thing about trying to do a project, and you do these sessions that range from gender justice to program management to public speaking, and it's a combination of these sessions plus a community project, but ultimately it's a whole experience. And while people can think about, oh, when I did the program, I remember this speaker, or I remember my project, but the bottom line is it's more than that. It's the entire experience. It's the people you meet in your cohort. It's the people who want to come out and help out with ACLF and be a mentor, be a speaker, or a facilitator of geoteaming, for example. And then suddenly this community starts to form. And when I walk away from it, I mean, I can tell you what the project was, I can tell you what sessions I had, but ultimately it was the friendships and the connections and the people I met. That is ultimately what ACLF is all about.
Well, that's good. And it's, what, is it a 9-month or 1-year program?
It's technically a 6-month program.
Okay.
But the program is 6 months, but ACLF is constantly trying to do things all year round. Yeah. I think the one thing as board chair is to really have an impact in the community, to continually be present. You just can't be present for the program and then suddenly for the 6 months at a time that you're not actually doing a program, suddenly we don't know what's going on with ACLF. I think the one thing that I want to think that I've been trying to strive towards is to be present in the community.
And so that's actually a good segue then too for ACLF. The question I have is your role is the board president. There are multiple people on the board who oversee this program, and so besides being president, what else do you see as your role for the board president in ACLF?
Well, the first thing I also want to mention is, so ACLF is run by a board, a volunteer board. We don't have any paid staff whatsoever. So everything that we pull off is through the kindness of volunteers. And, you know, we do this program, we do a graduation, we try to do these events, and it is all through the hard work of volunteers. And, you know, while someone can really say, like, wow, that's a really big job to carry, at the same time, it does point back to the people who really care about the community. And I completely forgot the question that you asked me.
Your role at ACF, so board president, yeah.
So, board president. So, as board president, I try, fingers crossed, to do what I can to lead this foundation in a way that Kip Takuda would be proud.
The founder.
Yes, founded by Kip Takuda, who unfortunately is not with us anymore. But I find myself in board meetings trying to figure out, okay, we're going to do this instead. And there's this voice in the back of my mind saying, I wonder what Kip would say. And 99% of the time, I don't get any voice at all. But that 1% of the time, it's just, I think Kip would be happy. And the 1% is fine.
So maybe your board president role is a little bit like WWKD, right? What would Kip do, right? And making sure, I mean, as board president, that is something that's important that you're doing, is that you understand what his vision and legacy is, and that you look to keep it going on even though he is not here.
Yes.
Does that sound about right?
Yes, definitely. I mean, everything we do is within the context of not only honoring his legacy, but to also create our own legacy. Because the last thing that I would ever want to think is I'm trying to be like someone that I could never be. I hope to honor Kip through what I try to do and do it in the way that I feel like this is me doing this.
And he would want it that way too, right? Yeah. To have your authenticity, right? And, you know, still furthering his vision. Yeah. So, well, it sounds too like your board really gets it done too with its own version of team building, right? And of course, team building is one of the many skills, speaking skills, social justice skills, community gathering. But team building is definitely one of the skills that I'm very honored to be able to help you with. Talk about the role of team building and ACLF.
You know, without team building, you have no team. And if you're going to be a leader, you need a team. And I think what I appreciate about the geoteaming experience is there's so much more stuff going on than just winning.
Yes.
There's more things going on than just winning.
And wait. I got to say, too, and this year he said he helped the class collectively chose All I Do Is Win as the song. So it's kind of funny that you're talking about that there's more to winning, right?
The song is very much on the nose. But yes, I mean, it's more than just winning what we're trying to do. There are the other lessons that are hidden in the experience. And ultimately, whether or not you win or lose, it is the experience that we get out of geoteaming that really matters. It's the out-of-the-box things. It's not about, getting the most points and then winning the prize, because in a lot of situations, I mean, I've been doing geoteaming with you since 2011.
Yeah.
And I've seen the outcome change every single year. And it is not about winning. It is never about winning. It is about having the experience.
And learning something valuable. And in the end, that learning hopefully guides you to do something. And I definitely hope you can share with your team's story, because you didn't win, but you did win this year. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. This year, our team did not win. And it was more about, I think there was the second part of the event, and we kind of could figure out that we were not going to get enough points. So instead, I suggested that we go get some ice cream. And this is a throwback to when back in 2011, I was part of the losing team, and we were like deader than dead last. We had no chance of winning whatsoever, or even coming close to second place. And John was part of our team, and we basically, in the midst of losing, we got dim sum. And it was like one of those things that it was just, we're going to lose, but at the same time, we win, because we got to spend time with you. I got to know you. Yeah. And then from that point on, we've pretty much been friends ever since. Mm-hmm. And It was the fact that you were facilitating this experience and you were with the losing team, and you just jumped outside of that to say, hey, let's go get some dim sum. And we never talked about the fact that we were losing. Everybody knew that we were losing, but you got us dim sum, and some of the best dim sum is in Pike Place Market.
I definitely know exactly the place he's talking about too. I think it's Misum Pastries. I think is right there. I'll talk to you too a little bit now about some of the Facilitator Secrets. Right, I've been doing team building now for 20 years and been facilitating before that, and so my goal really was around this. What I do think I do remember now, and Randon had to actually remind me, and so it's great about sometimes as facilitators we do a lot of stuff, and sometimes we don't know the impact. Right, and sometimes later we get to find out that this is actually what we call a ripple. Like when you drop a rock in a lake, right, and the ripple comes back, to the center point later, is when we finally hear that something we did made a really big impact. And so, thank you for sharing the story. The key as a facilitator in this case is your team was definitely down in the dumps, right? It's a little, they're on the dejected side. If you watch Dunkirk, right, you might have looked like these guys on the beach, and but it looked a little. That's at least to get the mood. And so what I was thinking about at the time is like, we definitely want to do something to lift their spirits, because always in geoteaming to me is that there are multiple ways to win. Number one, it's not about just the points. And people forget that because they get so hooked into that. And the second part is like, what can I do around this to raise the spirits of everyone around us? And third around it is like, how can we really use it as a, authentic moment to, have a different opportunity? And I tell people, like, sometimes the goal is not to win. Sometimes in geoteaming, if you choose to make the goal to connect more deeply than any of the other teams, or have the best time more than any other teams, then you can win. Because that's exactly what this team did, is because we shared food, right? The group immediately lit up, whether it was the calories or the gesture. And then afterwards, we were all laughing and talking. And truly, Randon has reminded me that one piece of dim sum has led to a relationship of which we've shared lots of different moments over the years. And so that's what I was doing as a facilitator. And I think what it does show, too, because you did it this year, with the ice cream, it's very subtle too. All you do is a gesture like, let's go get ice cream. That's all you have to say. But what's really happening, there's other people observe this and they're going, the leader of my group has decided that we can win in a different way, that we can, that we're okay to relax, right? It's not just about winning, and that's okay. That is maybe even more important, that we connect, right? And turn the best opportunity out of whatever it is that we have. And so I hope the members of your team remember that, because maybe one day they're going to tell you about a time when they took a team out for food. It was magic, right?
If only, yes.
If only.
If only, yes.
Well, all right. So ACLF has been going on for quite a while, and you've been in there again since 2011 as a. What are some of the ACLF success stories? So where you've seen ACLF really help somebody become something that they weren't without this training?
Oh, I mean, if you could just take a look at the alumni list, right? There are people who've gone through COP, and they end up becoming the executive director for an agency that has a positive impact in the community. Like there's several agencies and people coming to mind where the commonality is we all did this program. And it's not just that, it's just the fact that when you graduate from this program, you never really leave. You may feel like you've left, but you have a family.
You're a lifetime member.
Yes.
And even if you disappear, you can always come back. And I also think something about the ACLF quote-unquote brand is that when you say you're an ACLF graduate, people who know about the program, that it means something, that it's kind of like a pre-vouching of them, which allows them to get like things like an executive director job, right?
I remember when I had to do my project back in 2011, being a part of ACLF preceded me when I had to go do some surveys or I had to do some interviews. The fact that I was a part of this foundation was the thing that allowed me to talk to leaders in the community, to do my project, and just my own story going back again. I mean, I am the behavioral health manager for a community health clinic, ICHS, and we are impacting this community here. And I was given the opportunity to build the behavioral health services that take place at every single clinic. We have 4 clinics. And I get to impact not only this community, but each community that we have a clinic. And, that's just, it's just something that it can be overwhelming at times, but at the same time, it's just, I just feel thankful.
And you wouldn't have gotten this job without the connections you made at ACLF, right?
Yes. We talked about that circle, right? If I didn't do ACLF, I would not have definitely met you. I would not be doing this right now. And if it wasn't for ACLF, I would not have met Kip Takuda. I would not have been a part of this experience where, because of that experience, I was asked to try to help this community, and in turn, I eventually got to work for this community. I mean, everything is all coming in circles.
Well, and so again, if you don't know the statistics, right, it's like API or Asian Pacific Islanders have over 200% the national average of like bachelor's or college degrees or more, and yet the inverse happens. It's like they have less than 50% of the executive jobs, like an executive director. It's in nonprofit, government, or the corporate world. And so programs like these really help change those statistics, even if it's one person at a time. And so I got to credit Kip, and I'm so fortunate that I got to sit in Kip's house before he passed away. Talk about what it was like meeting Kip for the first time, and then let me know if you have any other Kip stories that still stick with you.
Well, when I met Kip, I actually met Kip without really realizing I met Kip, because I met his wife, Barbara Louie, and I've been told the story since that both Kip and Barbara had conspired to have me join the CLP program and whatnot. And while I could totally give a lot of embarrassing stories about Kip, which I won't, I will talk about how I think it was one of the events that we did during our class. It was a mixer, and we had to do, it was a mentor match. So it was like speed dating with mentors. And we were at the bush, and we all basically had to try to mix, and then we get cued, and then we got to go to the next person and talk to the next person, where you end up saying like the same thing like 5 times, and it didn't really feel real. So being who I am, sorry, I bowed out.
No apologies, by the way, but continue.
I sat down, and I didn't want to do it anymore because I didn't think it was meaningful. And that was when Kip sat next to me. And instead of doing this what I felt was fake and artificial about you've got to just say something about you, it was like speed dating for mentors. And when you do speed dating, I mean, that's enough pressure to get a date. Now I've got to try to get a mentor and all that. So what happened was I sat down. I didn't want to do it anymore, and then Kip sat next to me, and we just started to chat, and that was my first glimpse at what mentorship really is. It's not this thing. It is more about the interaction, the relationship building. It's not I'm a mentor and you're a mentee, and now I have to say these things, and then hopefully we connect. I've never really been able to connect that way, and out of my frustration of this event, Kip sat down with me, and we started chatting, and then from that point on, I think it was pretty much set in motion. I was brought into this community through ACLF, and the founder of this foundation brought me into his home, and I got to feel like a part of the family, and I'm going to say gratitude again, but it's when I look back at that experience, I have nothing but gratitude for that. I mean, he didn't have to do what he did. but the way that he did it, it felt so natural. It seemed like something that I hopefully one day would be able to do.
Well, and there's a bunch of leadership principles in here, but I think the most that's important to you that I know you is that something truly is authentic, and I think you try and teach that to everybody who's a participant of ACLF. Does that sound about right?
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, I mean, I don't know, this concept of leadership is, if you're not authentic, if you're not real, then why would anyone want to follow you? I'm not talking about what's going on in the government right now, but it's really interesting. I've said this several times already. Given the state of affairs of the world right now, I'm fully for voting. You need to call your congressman. You need to rebel. You need to march. But you also need to invest in the community. And by investing in the community, it's investing in the leaders of the community.
Oh, and there's a much better return on investment. You can actually see it. I mean, if we're trying to push national politics, until we get to that level of influence, we can't have that much influence. But you can definitely have an impact in your community today if you just choose to do so, right?
Yeah, and it's about, having a voice and trying to champion that voice and finding like people with the same voice to say, no, you're not alone. And yes, the world is the way it is right now, and hopefully it won't be that way forever. But we stand in solidarity.
Yeah. Well, I'll compliment you too, and just share some of the leadership principles. I wrote this article about 5 ways to know you're on the winning team, and number one of them is doing something different. So your ability, especially as an API, as an Asian Pacific Islander, because the stereotype is conformity. And not to speak up. And that's part of our leadership training, is to make sure that we teach these parts are really super important for us to help make change. And the ability to go against like social convention and norm, and teams who do things different. I'm watching for these teams. Like gives us our ability to help predict winning teams just after watching them for about 5 minutes, do a team name and a team chair. So doing something different, again, the willingness to stand out. I think that's why Kip sat next to you and identified you as a leader. And you continue to show that too. When you talk about, of course, the celebration that you have coming up, that you're doing something slightly different, I think it's great to be able to tell other people, since it's coming up and it's a celebration as for your service.
Yes, so right now we're beginning to plan our graduation event. So at the end of every class, the class graduates, we celebrate the graduation, and it is basically the annual fundraiser for ACLF. And while I've gone to many different fundraisers, although they are different, they're always fundraisers. Mm-hmm. And they don't focus on the fun as much. And while I'm trying to do something different, I think that a lot of the board has jumped on this idea of having it a celebration to limit the actual fundraising to do what it needs to do, because we need support, we need donations and all that good stuff, but not make it all about that. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to make it more of a celebration. We're trying to have music and dancing and vendors selling things. And we want to make it different. We want to kind of take a look at what it means to support a foundation like ACLF, and kind of put it on its ear. You still support this foundation, but in a different way, where you feel like it is more of a celebration. Yeah. And more of this, I have to sit down and there's the same kind of dinner all the time, and then there is the ask and whatnot, and the whole 4 or 5 hours is just that. And we're hoping to do something a little bit different by having it more of a celebration, more of a party. Mm-hmm. To be more inclusive, to have more people that would probably think that I would never want to go to a fundraiser, that I don't know how I'd fit. And it's more about being inclusive of everyone, to try to make everyone feel that they're welcome, and to celebrate ACLF.
Yeah, even simple meeting planners take note. A simple idea to have 2 tickets, right? One that includes the meal right towards the beginning, and then a less expensive ticket for those, so they can enjoy all the performances and the different things at the end. And so, ideas as simple as this, that's what you should look for in your fundraiser. So, if you want to ask questions, you can ask Randon here. All right, Randon, we're gonna we're gonna close with these 2 items. Number one is if Kip was here today, what would you tell him?
If Kip was here today, I would tell him, I'd ask him, does this make sense? No, really, tell me to stop. Because if I'm going the wrong way, please tell me to stop. But actually, what I would tell him is I would say thank you. I would say that I've learned things from the experience of being with you, and I try to do my best to honor you. Try to make good on what has been done for me, and to continue this feeling of family and community. Family is community. Community is family. We don't have to look alike to be community. We don't have to look alike to be family. And I would tell Kip, thank you. And I hope I'm doing right by you.
Well, I think your greatest thank you back to him is the amount of service that you put in to this organization. So thank you again for the time, really, truly. Again, it's unpaid, but it's time to the service of this organization to create the next leaders. Any final words, anything you'd like to share with people that we didn't get to cover today?
I feel like we've been talking for the last 5 hours or something. But no, just... it's all about building community. So if you don't think that you would be able to fit into something like ACLF, I challenge that notion to say that may not necessarily be true. And we're currently in the Chinatown International District. And the one thing that you look at me, I'm not a representative of Chinatown. I mean, if you see me walking down the street, I'm not necessarily the representative of the community. But that doesn't mean that I don't feel ownership for this community, that I want to do things for this community. And I honestly think that that is the importance of community. It goes past what it looks like. It's more about what community feels like.
And we talked about that. The key for community isn't color, race, gender, any of these other things. It's about belonging. And I think you really feel like you belong here.
Yes, I do feel like I belong. And my way of giving back is to make others feel like they belong.
Well, that's that. We're going to leave you with that challenge here from Randon. See if you can do something. If you've been watching this, do something for your community. See if you can take somebody who feels like they're an outsider and bring them in and make them feel like a member, like they belong as part of that community. And I think if we just do that, this world will be a much better place.
A lot better than it is now.
All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.